Today we are focusing on building the database. So SAP HANA is a database, right? So today we're going to start with how do we build database in HANA? How do I build my tables, or how do I build my schema, and how do I get the data into it, and sequences, views, and all those database artifacts. Okay. So here we're going to use, so when you look at SQL, you'll have data definition language statements or data manipulation statements. See, SQL is all about statements like select statement, create statement, delete, drop, all this. So building the database, we're going to focus more on data DDL, data definition language statements. You will have this PDF. See, you will have a different set of statements like DDL, DML, procedural statements, transaction management. You'll have different, all the statements, all the SQL statements are grouped with different grouping, like say DDL, data definition language statements. You'll have data manipulation statement, procedural statements, transaction statements, session management, controlling access, data export or import statements, system management scenarios, all this. Now, when you see a building database, we are focusing mainly on what? What is this here? Data definition language statements, which is mainly three things. One is create, alter, and then drop. Three major statements. Say, I would like to create a table, then I use create statement. Let's say I would like to drop a table, I would use what? Drop statement. I would like to alter the table, then I would use alter. Any database artifact, let's say you want to create a view, then you will say what? Create view. You want to drop a view, you say drop view, and you want to alter, then alter. So majorly three things: create, alter, and drop. I'll send this PDF later, but you'll get this. That's okay. So we are mainly focusing on DDL statements, which is mainly responsible for creating the database for. But you don't have to really focus more on this DDL statement, because for pretty much, let's say I would like to create a table, you have a UI available for it. Hello? Hello?
Muted.
So then you're not connected. Did you connect your headphones or something? I think yours is Seshu Reddy or what? Which one? Rajan, it's now. Can't you hear now? Because others are able to hear.
Muted.
This is something from your problem from your end. That's what. When others are able to, you're not able to hear. There should be some problem from your side. See whether you booted your system or something. Yeah. Now session is running, so tomorrow we'll do that after the class. Yeah. Any of this will be recorded. Don't worry. Tomorrow we'll check that. Okay. Now we're in the class. I can't do anything now. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, boss. So for pretty much when you look at this DDL statements, you don't have to really worry much about writing the statements, because for pretty much for DDL you have an UIs built. For example, so I want to create a table. I can go with what? Create table statement, or I can, when I right click on the schema, I have option as what? New table. I will also have UI where I can go to creating my table also. So you have both the flexibilities. Wherever you have both, because end user is not worried whether you're creating a table with SQL statement or with the UI. Ultimately, he wants a table out. Okay. So for pretty much of DDL, you have the UI available. So don't focus more on the SQL. Okay. Focus more on the UI part. That will make you simple. Okay. Now let's start. Now first we are focusing on schema bus. So schema is itself is called as a database. Let's say a HANA database, you'll have HANA database server. Logical grouping of database itself is what we call it as schema bus. So sometimes schema itself is called as a database. Schema itself is called as a database. For example, now let's say I have my BW system. Let's say this is my BW system, and if I see the status of this, I know that this is playing on what HANA database, and what is it? It says owner is what SAP ABAP 1. This is nothing but the schema name. If I go to schema here, so you'll have schema with this name, and all the data dictionary of this BW system will be maintained into this schema here. Say for example, I create a cube, all the fact table and dimension tables will be into this schema. So I create a DSO, all the data dictionary will be into this schema. So schema itself is referred as a database for it. It's a logical grouping of all your database artifacts is what we call it a schema. Okay. Okay. Now let's say I would like to create a schema bus. How do we create? For this, there is no UI, but simple. Like you open the SQL editor. Okay. This is my SQL editor, and then I use a statement create sch create schema and name of the schema bus. Okay, and you can I'll just say 7 cubics is my schema. Select this and say execute. And if you refresh this, you should find your schema. What is it? 7 cubics, but there's no database objects as of now in it. No tables, no views, nothing, because we've not yet created. We just formulated a schema here. So create schema. Schema name is a statement. How you go. There's no UI for creating schema. You have to create with SQL like this. Create schema, schema names, and that is one. Let's say now look at this. I've logged in with which user here? System user. I've logged in with system user, but I would like to create a schema which will be owned by user Cubex user 7. Then I would say create schema. Say this is my schema name. I'll say owned by whom? Cubex user. So I use this statement owned by, because if I just say create schema, schema name, schema is created by default, that will be owned by the person who is creating it. But say let's say I've logged in with user 1, but I'm trying to create a schema which has to be owned by user 2. Then I would say create schema, schema name owned by a different user. Now when I get this out, and will you get to see that Cubex user 7 here, which is a POD user? You don't get to see anything yet, but if I log in with this user, Cubex user 7, if I go to catalog, and do I see this user, POD user schema? So like this, you can also control it, the schema to be owned by different. By default, if you say create schema, that will be owned by the user who is creating it. But if you're trying to create a schema which has to be owned by a different person, then you can say what? Owned by. Yeah, each BW system will have its own schema, which is what we refer to as BW schema bus. Yeah. Okay, this is fine. And one more point to be noted is, for example, now let's say I create a new user. So I'm creating it as Cubex user 8, and then say some password. and I just create this user, and let's say I connect to the system with this new user. So when you create a new user, by default it creates a schema with the same name. So for every user you create, you will find a schema with the same name. For every user you create, it would have the schema with the same name, which will have the complete access to that user. And HANA creates ప్రతి యూజర్ కి ఒక స్కీమా క్రియేట్ అవుతుంది యూజర్ స్పెసిఫిక్. Which one? I don't know. New user? Can I, yeah, you can create. But my intention is to show you, if you create a new user, you will have a schema with the same name by default. And if you want to create new schema, you'll say create schema so and so. And if you're logged in with user one and you want to create a schema for a different user, you would say what? Create schema name owned by a different user. That's it. Okay. So I'm going to leverage this schema, which is 7 cubic. And one more point I would like to stress here is, if you see there are a lot of schemas, and you see schemas with saying sysbi, sysbic, and any schema which is starting with sys is the ready-made schema bus. In the interview point of view, they're asking what are the default schemas maintained in HANA database. So these are the default schemas what comes in sysbi, sysbic, sysstatistics, sysaccess. All these are the system schemas, means which will be maintained by the system. We are not doing anything. But these two are really important. Okay. Now let me tell you this sysbic. Now what is importance of the sysbic? I said, see, HANA is all about bringing raw data into the tables. On top of these tables, you build your virtual models by using attribute view, analytical view, or calculation view, and expose it for reporting, right? Now the logic here is, for every attribute view, or for every analytical view, or every calculation view you activate, it creates some objects in the backend. It will deploy some objects which are called as column views. We'll discuss later what is column views, but when you activate your HANA models, it does create some column views in the backend, and those views are created in sysbic schema. So all the objects which get generated by the system in the backend will be into this schema called sysbic. For example, I create one calculation view. It has to create some column views in the backend, and those column views are generated in sysbic schema. For example, if you want to see, so I have this view, let's say this is a calculation view, which is ZCV sales overview. Yeah? This was already deployed. I mean, deployed in the sense, let's say you activated it. Okay? So when I activate this, what happens in the backend is it does create some column views in the sysbic. If you go to sysbic, what is this column view? Say filter. I just don't want to see all that CV underscore. What is my view? CV underscore sales underscore overview. When I do this, so we are only, ours is not 5 cubics, ours is 6 cubics. See, 6 cubics models. What is this? That's actually column view. We'll see what this column view later, but that's actually column view. And this column view will have all the definition. If you open this, it will have all the coding in the back. This is all formulated by the system. So when you basically deploy your HANA models, it does create some catalog objects in the backend. System will generate some catalog objects in the backend, and which is a column view. All those catalog objects, or nothing but column views, are generated in sysbic schema. Okay, boss. So any object you create in the HANA modeling content, if it needs to generate any catalog objects into database objects, and all those catalog objects will be generated in sysbig schema. For example, or let's say when I right click on a package, I can say new what is procedure. I would go with defining all the logic. It when I activate this, it actually creates a stored procedure in, the stored procedure must be in some schema. It creates in which schema now? Sysbig schema. If I go to my if I go to some schema and say create a procedure, then the procedure is into that schema. But if I go to modeling content and create my stored procedure, it gets created in sysbig schema. And the default schema for all the generated objects will be sysbig schema. Very, very important. And then you'll have one more schema called what is sysbi bus. Okay, yeah. Next is what? sysbi is again very, very important. This mainly have some standard tables relevant for time database. Time relevant data will be maintained in this schema called sysbi. For example, I have a date bus. For a given date, I would like to know what is a day, what is a month, what is a year, what is a quarter, what is a weekday, all those detailed time information I would like to have. So all this time relevant data is maintained in your sysbi schema. If I expand this sysbi schema, and if I expand tables, these are the important ones. Look at this. You'll have something about what? M underscore fiscal underscore calendar, M underscore time underscore dimension. These are the time relevant tables. These tables holds the time data in it. So when I want to create a view, which basically gets me time data, then I can leverage these tables and create my views. So these are the standard tables which maintains my time data ante for a given, let's say the granular could be anything, let's say day level details or week level, month level, anything, depending on you fill in, yeah. So if I said day level, then for each day, you'll know what is a month, what is a weekday, what is a year, what is a quarter. So when you install your these tables are blank. These tables will have no data. Week, hour, whatever it is, all this can be derived from this table. But when you see a new system, these tables will be blank. These tables will be blank. So we do a process called generate time data to fill this table. Now, see, you see M underscore fiscal and M underscore time, right? We have two sets here. One, and this is two other sets. This is all together as one set and this is one set. Now, what is the difference here? If you generate your time data based on financial year, the time data will be maintained in this table. Which table? M underscore fiscal underscore calendar. If you generate your time data based on normal calendar year, then it does fill data into these tables. Which is one? M underscore time underscore dimension or year or week or month. See, ultimately, tables will hold time data. These tables are initially blank. We'll have to perform a process called generate time data to fill these tables out. Then these tables can be leveraged in modeling, in creating my virtual models. So, but while filling these tables by performing generate time data, we have two options. One is Gregorian and calendar bus. Gregorian is nothing, sorry, financial year or Gregorian bus. Financial means what? It basically fills the table called M underscore fiscal underscore calendar with all the financial year details. If you generate based on the calendar, it does fill in data into which table? M underscore time underscore dimension based on calendar year. For example, let's say, let me see, there is a data in this table. So let me drop this. I'll right click and show delete. I'm saying what? Delete all rows. All my data has been dropped now. So if I try to see the content, do you see any database? There's no data. So I would like to I would like to fill this table. I would like to fill this table with all the time data for me. Then what I'll do? Help. Then what do you say? Quick view. Then there's option called generate time data bus. Now when you go to generate time data, I would like generate time data in this SP9 system. Yes. It will ask me whether do you want to generate time data based on fiscal year or Gregorian. Gregorian is nothing but calendar year. Fiscal is nothing but fiscal year bus. So if you go with fiscal year, it does fill data in what? M underscore fiscal under calendar table. If I go with Gregorian, I'll go with Gregorian. You want data from 2012 to let's say 2015. And what is granularity bus? Granularity ante, sorry, you let generate time data from 2012 till 2015, 12, 13, 14, and 15, 4 years of data. Now, in this table, do you want to maintain entry for each day wise or week wise or month wise? What is the least granularity? I would let go with day wise, and that's a finish. So what happens from 2012 to 2015? It considers each day as one record. It formats one record for each day. For each day, it will have the information about year, month, quarter, all this week, hour, all this stuff will have. Now successfully done. If I go to this table and say display content, you start seeing this data. Forget about first 2, 3, but what does it say? Jan what? Jan 2012. If you bottom completely, it is just showing only 1,000 records. Now you see data till what? 2014. Okko record ogodu. September 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. Each day is one record because you said granularity is day level. Now once data is generated into this table, these tables creating my HANA models wherever would like to have analysis on the time wise. Okay, that was fine. We'll see that later. But yes, sys BI is, and there's still more information to look at. Because if I go with financial year, it does ask me something called variant. We'll see all those stuff later. Yeah. But the sys, for now, what sys BI will hold all the tables relevant for time data. That's it. And where the tables are filled with what? Generate time data. That's it. And you'll have some more ready-made schemas, but these are the two important ones which we mainly deal with. And you'll have another schema. This is for system user. You'll have another schema called what? Sysbus. This schema will have all the system standard tables, system repository and goes. For example, now I create some tables. Definitely there should be some standard table in the backend which will hold information about every table in my HANA database. Or there should be some table which maintains information about every column of a table in my HANA database. అంటే మొత్తం సిస్టమ్ మెటాడేటా అంతా ఒక స్టాండర్డ్ టేబుల్స్ పెట్టుకోవాల్సిందే కదా. All those will be in this schema. Which one? Sys. It does use a keyword sys for all the system defined objects. Yeah. So if we go to tables, see the lot of tables here. All these tables are used to store your metadata of your HANA system. What SAP does is, they say you cannot really understand this table straight away. To simplify your understanding, SAP has done it. SAP has created some views on top of those tables. These are like database views. These are not like HANA model. These are like normal database views. Remove the filter and try to see the lots of views. These are normal database views which are built on those tables to give you the information. Say for example, I have what is this table? What is the view? Tables. This will show me information about every table in HANA. Right click and so open content. They will tell me schema name, table name, comments, then go with table. Is it whether it's what type of column is table? Is it whether look at this whether auto merge is enabled on this table or not? You get all the details of this table into this file, into this table. Atla, you'll also have some views like we'll discuss on those. You'll have another what is it? Table columns will give me information about every column of a table. అట్లా views details అన్న దాంట్లో ఉన్నాయి, users details అన్న ఒక టేబుల్లో ఉన్నాయి. These are the standard tables of repository tables of HANA which will maintain entire metadata of HANA database. HANA database table గురించి, యూజర్ల గురించి, స్కీమాల గురించి, వ్యూస్ గురించి, సీక్వెన్సెస్ గురించి, ట్రిగ్గర్స్ గురించి, ప్రొసీజర్స్ అన్ని ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ స్టాండర్డ్ టేబుల్స్ లో పెట్టుకుంటుంది. బట్ యూ కెనాట్ రియల్లీ అండర్స్టాండ్ స్టాండర్డ్ టేబుల్స్ స్ట్రైట్ అవే. So SAP has built in some views on top of those tables which can make you more clearer. It joins tables and give it to you. But you can always see the definition of the view also. When it's an open definition, if you go to create sheet, we can see really this view is built on what tables in the backend. You can understand this definition and see on which tables this